Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning. Thanks for having me. My name is Chang. I am a Canadian, graduated in Toronto, but I was born in Malaysia. My wife is from Taiwan, and BioID is a German company, and I live in Switzerland. I believe that's a good start to introduce myself before I talk about biometrics. Biometric is daily thing. It's what we live every day. When you wake up in the morning, you shake hands. This is biometrics. So we're not talking about something, rocket science. Okay. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. So what about who is BioID? We scientists came from Fraunhofer Institute. BioID is a German company. And our scientists came from Fraunhofer. For those of you who are not familiar with who Fraunhofer is, you know MP3. Remember MP3? It was invented in Fraunhofer. We were across the street from where the MP3 was invented, and this is how we started. The technology was actually originally a research project at Fraunhofer to try to understand people who have stroke, how they speak, how they want to express themselves. So we actually learn how to do lip reading, facial recognition, and those things. And that's how we take the technology and we commercialize it into something that we can make use in the industry. We are the pioneer in biometric as a service. We started about 20 years ago. We were the first to introduce biometrics logging for Windows 98. So you know how old I am. Windows 98 was that time, of course, it's a username and password, and we were the first to introduce multimodal biometric logging using your face, and you say a phrase, open sesame, and then you log into your computer. And at that time, Samsung was still making webcam. They purchased about 1 million copies from us. And of course, they do not sell webcam anymore. That's the kind of a historical background we have. And about 5 years ago, we started to do biometric as a service because we found that it's very difficult for people to know how to integrate biometrics. They thought biometrics is complicated. They need a biometric specialist. No, we just make it available to anyone who wants to use biometric in the application. It's made in Germany, of course, and our guys, they are all Germans based in Nuremberg, about an hour's drive from north of Munich. And let's talk about today's world, and then I will come slowly to the topics of the presentation today. We all know that we are one person. I'm Chang, I'm the CEO of the company. When I go home, I'm the husband of my wife, and I'm the father of my kid, and so on and so on. So we go to the bank, we are customer to Credit Suisse, for example. So we have many identities. This is the fact. And we all want to do 24/7 because our life is changing. Today, I'm in Bahrain, and when I go back to Germany, it's 2 hours behind Bahrain. And then you want to do it anytime you want, and via any kind of platform. It's omni-channel service world we are talking about. It is a service world. And everything is a service. So you want to get a service anytime you want, via any channel. Via a mobile phone, your laptop, or whatever, a kiosk, or go to the branch if you still want to do so. So it's omni-channel is the reality of our world today. And customer experience is also another thing. Is customers are no longer loyal anymore to what you offer. They change their mind if they find it too complicated to bank at your bank, okay? I do not know how many of you heard about N26. N26 is a German bank, okay? And yes, a lot of people are switching to N26 because it's so easy. The user is so user-friendly. As long as you pass, you can get an account, and then you can have an account, and people just like it, okay? It's user loyalty. It's a new kind of industry that we're talking about, but this is the kind of user experience we expect customer expects from the service providers. So what are the issues? We are talking about identity frauds, of course, and we hear it every day. And those stolen identities are used to create fake accounts. And that creates a lot of problems for us. because we want to know our customers, and our customers want to be protected. And once the accounts are fake, who is liable? So there are a lot of issues that we hear every day. As a result, yes, of course, we see a lot of regulators coming on board. They say, well, we need to do KYC. Every bank needs to do KYC before they onboard a customer. And also for your own sake of security and data privacy, you also need to do KYC just to be sure that this is the customer that he claims who he is. And the compliances that we're talking about today is almost compulsory in every country. Recently in India, the eKYC has been a big issue. I'm sure all of you heard about that one. They had to go back to manual KYC. That means it's a big change. Of course, they enjoy a lot for the past year or so doing eKYC, remote KYC, but then they had to switch back because of the Supreme Court. They shut down the users of the Aadhaar database. So that created a lot of things. So the regulator actually make a big impact on the industry. And of course, throughout Europe, we have GDPR, we have data privacy. Once we have data in the cloud everywhere, then do we know who is using our data and how are they using it? Will they stop when we tell them to? So those are the things that we're talking about. So the regulation like GDPR is geared towards to protect the user data. But wait a minute. We're talking about KYC, ML, or PSD2 and those kind of stuff. And we also talk about data privacy. Those are pretty much conflicts to each other. So when I need to open a bank account, I have to disclose a lot of data because I need to. Otherwise, I won't be able to open a bank account. But on the other hand, what happens to the data I disclose to the bank? For example, if when you're checking at a hotel, you have to present your passport. They actually make a copy of passport, right? And what do they use the passport copy for, right? You don't have any idea. In Germany, we have the right to say, no, you are not supposed to take a copy of my passport. But on the other hand, the law says, well, every hotel has to make sure that you have an identity proof of your guest. So it is very conflict. Everything is conflictory, okay? And of course, there are challenges. So the challenges are threefold. The first thing, of course, is regulatory conflicts. Is KML, KYC versus GDPR. And the second thing is data privacy, of course. PII is personally identifier information versus anonymity. If I just want to go online and do some shopping, I want to remain anonymous until I want to make a purchase. But I do not want to disclose myself unnecessarily until I need to. So, or you just want to visit or go to online casino. You just want to make sure that you're over 21 or over 18. But you don't want to disclose who you are. That's exactly the data privacy controversy is. User journey. Security versus convenience. Your customers might say, well, I want to access the system easy. And as an IT administrator, you know this problem. Your users, they like convenience. I just want to log in. I do not want to change my password every 30 days or so. And how do you make those both worlds happy? How do you ensure security versus for those people who are using your service to make them feel comfortable and embrace your technology or your system? So can biometrics come to help to mitigate the challenges? First of all, biometrics is no magic. As I say, it's not rocket science. We've been using biometrics for years. And the kind of biometric I'm talking about today is something like you do every day. You wake up in the morning, you saw your son, you say, hello, son, and you look at the face, and you come to the office, you say, hello, good morning, you say something, and then you shake hands, and then you look in the eyes of someone when you talk to your customer, and so on and so forth. Those are the kind of biometrics I'm talking about. I'm not talking about technology like it's law enforcement related, your fingerprint or those kind of stuff. No, we're talking about biometrics. It's a daily. It's something you should feel comfortable about because this is who you are. This is biometrics. And why? Because it assures your presence which is important. When you do, our business today and versus the business 50, 100 years ago, there's no change. You're dealing with each other, the interaction. And the interaction that we do now, the difference is we do it online. But how do you make sure that the other person is really there to do the transaction? This is what you're talking about. It's user presence. And the other thing is ambiguous. It's non-ambiguous. If the user is there to carry out the transaction, that means he gives you the consent. He authorized the transaction. The other thing is uniqueness, because every one of us, God made us unique. We are very unique. So if this is you, you are who you are, there's no one else can pretend to be you. This is what biometrics is all about. Now I need to talk about anonymous biometrics. When we coin the term anonymous biometric, people will say, what do you mean? Biometric is not anonymous. It's you, right? Yes, it is anonymous. Let me talk about what is anonymous, because anonymous biometrics does not require your PII. I would go to the detail a little bit more later on. And biometrics is as a service. Biometrics should not bound to something, be bound to something. It's not your device. It's not your phone. It's not your home address. No. Biometrics should be a service. You can be anywhere, and you still are who you are. A few years ago, when I was traveling in Switzerland, I sit in the car, in a train, and then I had my laptop, my passport, everything, camera, on the rack, the luggage rack. And somehow I fell asleep because it was a long journey, and one of the stops, somebody took my luggage, and he took away my luggage. And when I found out, well, where's my luggage? It was too late, okay? So what happened? I did not have this permit at that time, so how do I prove myself? So I have nothing to prove who I am. I have no phone, I have no passport, I have nothing. Fortunately, I was traveling towards Geneva. One of my best friends, she works for United Nations for Canada. So I know her and say, oh yes, I know this is Ho Chang, and then of course. So if you want to recognize someone, you cannot rely on something that based on the outside of the recognition of who you are. It must be as a service. Recognition on the device or depending on something might not work because it can always trace to know who you are. If you say, I use my iPhone, my iTouch to recognize who you are, if I know the technology, the authentication was originated from that device, I know who you are. Then it's not anonymous. The third thing, of course, when it becomes anonymous, you have to be very careful. It must not be a robot. Remember when you sign up for something, they say, well, I want to make sure you are not a robot. Can you type in this funny character? And I hate that because sometimes you just have to say, I cannot recognize what the pictures are or that the letters are. So laugh detection is very, very important. Actually, it's a must. Because this is what we are concerned about. I think all of you, when we talk about biometrics, you say, oh, biometric, oh, it can be spoofed. What if somebody stole my fingerprint? So people are afraid that you're not there, but somebody try to use biometrics for some other, for however they do it, that they can be recognized as you are, okay? So liveness detection must be there to become anonymous biometrics. So, and anonymity protects privacy, of course. There are two things. When you capture the image or whatever, it arrives to the server, and the server says, well, I know this is a person. You should not keep the data. This is anonymity, or what we call pseudonymized data structure. So you get the data, you achieve your operation, you should toss them away. Unless the bank said, well, do you want to use the phrase to log in, a selfie login to do your banking in the future? If you want to, can we keep the data? The data in this case will be just template. Template is hash code. It's like a password when it's when you enter your password, it will be kept as a hash code at the server end. They will never keep plain text that your password will be clear and visible and readable to anyone. So biometric is doing the same thing. We keep a hash code of your template, the characteristic of your face, of your voice, whatever. So we can use the characteristics to recognize who you are. So this is how biometric works. Secondly, biometric must be observed in a way that it is separated from identity. It means it is separate from the user management. As a bank or as a service provider, you know your user, where he lives, how he shops, and his name, his address, and so on and so forth. But this is not the thing that we are talking about. For biometrics, those are decoupled. They are not part of the biometrics as a service. So the application is in full control. The application can say, well, now you do not want to be recognized by your face. That's okay. The face, the biometric can be deleted. In terms of GDPR, this is the terminology they are using. Biometric as a service is a processor, and the application is a controller. In EU, we make a very distinctive definition, the difference. So if you want to offer biometric as a service, you have to be a processor, and you have to provide a data access agreement to the service provider, which is the controller. And liveness detection, as I said, is a must. How do you prevent spoofing? If I can use your photo, I can download. You can download my LinkedIn photo, and you already saw one earlier. That's me. That's Ho Chang. And if I can download your LinkedIn photo and playback, this is what we call playback. That I put it in front of the camera, and this is me. I can log into your bank account. That's no good. So you must be able to do live detection, making sure that it is you who are there to do the transaction, not anybody else try to use your photo or a video if they record your video. You can record a video right now and try to play back on an iPad to the system. The system must be able to tell, yes, no, sorry, this is a video. This is very important. Today, I would say 90% of the time when customers come to us, they do not come to us asking us, do you have facial recognition? No, they do not do that. They do not ask for that. They come to us and say, well, can you help us to do live detection? We have a problem because we have customers open bank account. We cannot tell if this is really that customer. So liveness detection is becoming very, very important today. Biometric by itself is already there, and it's an assumption that you have to do it right. So today's issue again, identity theft. Of course, there are fake accounts. And I want to bring up this news again. A few years ago in Orange County in California, there was a woman who was caught by FBI that she was using fake accounts, fake identity, or stolen identity, credit cards to create online identity to rent cars online. She managed to steal 42 cars. So for those of you who are still thinking about how to do KYC, think about it. Every KYC will cost $35,000, a mid-sized car. That's how important it is. So 42 cars, of course, she got caught, unfortunately in a way that it taught us a lesson, and we really have to take KYC seriously. But how do we do it today? It's on-site. This is a typical on-site onboarding. I used to go to, when I first opened my bank account, or most people, they go to the bank with their parents, and then, yeah, this is my son, he needs to open a bank account. Okay, you go on-site. You show them you have some reference, you have a lot of information, and then you have a face-to-face over the counter, and then you do it on-site. And the other thing, of course, is a video identification, because it's proven very cumbersome if you have to travel all the way to the bank to open a bank account. So a few years ago in Germany, we already do post-ident, online post-ident, or we call video identification. That means it is already a step advanced than the manual process. So when you want to open a bank account, you fill in the form, and then you submit it. You say, well, I want to open a bank account. The system will say, well, we'll get back to you. So the customer service would arrange a time, will call you, oh, Chang, you want to open a bank account, or they write you by email, do you have time on Tuesday morning, 9:30, to have a video conference session? Of course, I'm working, I don't have time, but I want to do it at night, I can't. Of course, they have to arrange a time for you to be able to, they can see you online, face-to-face. So it's a video conferencing session. So they ask you to present your ID card, put it in front of the camera, and touch the camera, the ID card, maybe tilt the ID card so they can see the holographic images in front of a camera, or touch your nose, or just wave your hand so that they know you are live. It's not a video recording. So this is how they do it. Imagine those kind of process takes minutes. Not to mention that you need to arrange an appointment a few days ahead of time. And also, the worst thing is a lot of people, if these people who are disorganized, they say, well, oh, do you want my ID card? Which ID card? Oh, just hang on. So they go and search for the ID card and so on and so forth. So it takes minimum 5 to 15 minutes for one KYC process. It's very costly. I talked to several of them, the service provider, they say one of them, they actually have about 350 call agents sitting in Düsseldorf data center, customer support center. They recruit over 300 people, and they must be trained agents to do so. And banks usually go back to them and do auditing because they say, well, we want to be sure that you do it properly. If the agents are not trained, be able to recognize a genuine ID card, if they do not do it properly, they will be in trouble. They switch over to another service provider. So this is the state of the art of video conferencing as of today. It's manual, of course, it's time consuming, it's very costly, and in Germany, we also need to, when you buy a prepaid SIM card, you have to also need to do KYC as well. Come on, give me a break. I just want to switch on my SIM card. I want to use my phone right away. This is why I buy a SIM card, right? But this is the process we need to have. So it's very costly. It's poor user experience. You won't be able to use a prepaid SIM card until days after. And no real-time service possible. If I use my insurance, I want to activate my travel insurance because I have a red-eye flight to catch tonight to somewhere else. I could not do it. I have to do it ahead of time. So it's not possible to do it. So it's very, very time-consuming and costly. So KYC powered by biometrics, in a way, I would say, is /AI. Of course, I will be focusing on biometric for the moment, okay? KYC powered by biometrics, there are a couple of things. Biometric assisted identity proving. Biometrics using the machine learning and deep learning technology and neural networks, we are capable of recognizing if this ID card photo is you, which is very important. Much better than human, how they do it. Human make mistake. If you want to see my ID card, you might be able to tell if this is me until I tell you this is me, because people change over time, and a lot of ID cards are good for years, for 5 years, 10 years, and of course, I think most of the ID cards are good for 10 years, even passport, I think. And in Germany, things are also very complicated because if you were born in the 50s, you still have this paper driver's license. And now you're, of course, over 50. You probably don't have much hair, but you still have a picture of your young photograph when you were 18 when you applied for a driver's license. You are not obligated to change if you don't want to change. You can still have it. How do you do KYC? It's very difficult, of course, right? So you need the technology to do so. So the technology will be able to help you to a certain level of assurance that this is the same person. So performance quality is much more improved. The second thing is liveness detection. With this one, you can do face-to-face without even really to do face-to-face. This is important, right? Because this is where we are. We want to be sure that a face-to-face is the thing that is the final line of the transaction. We need to make sure it's you. If you want to transfer 1 million euros to another account, usually ask to the bank, to the branch to do it, right? Because it's a very big, sensitive transaction. You need to be done. It must be done on a face-to-face manner, and you can prevent duplicates. We talked about a lot of things earlier. Biometric can be very helpful in a way. Banks can use it to detect duplicates. For example, if somebody comes to the bank and says, well, yeah, I need to open a bank account. I have a stolen ID, and I say, I'm not Ho Chang, but I'm someone else, John Doe. And you should be able to find out, yes, there's someone looks like you already opened an account, or there's a John Doe already in the system, but now you want to open a bank account under a different name or something like that. So you should be able to detect duplicates. Duplicate is the data integrity of the whole securities. If your database, if you have a lot of millions of customers, if the database is not clean in a way, the integrity has a problem, then you might not have a good system to ensure your quality of the service. So biometric as a service, when you use it to power KYC process, it looks something like this. Of course, most of you are very familiar with the first step. You have to fill in a form to say, well, I want to open a bank account, this is my name, and so on and so forth, the address, and then usually you need to scan your ID card. Of course, can I take your ID card? And then you present it in front of the camera, and then they do ID validity check. Usually what they do is they use OCR technology to read off the data of the chip, the card, or if you have NFC reader, they are able to use NFC reader to read off the data from the ID document. For example, biometric e-passport or your EID card, for example. Of course, there is also ID authenticity validation, meaning that this is not a fake card produced in somewhere in the world. You can buy any kind of ID card and ship to you at a cost, of course. You can buy the Californian driver's license online at $25. But how do you be sure that this is a genuine ID card that with all the security features on the card? So you have to do ID authentication, authenticity check. Of course, this is an area that's covered by AI technology as well. I'm not going to cover it, but I just want to make one comment. More and more trends that you can see nowadays, they're going to make physical card disappear very soon, maybe in the next 10 years. We've seen a lot of countries right now, you can go through the immigration with your mobile phone, with your digital ID. So it's going to disappear because it is complicated to do, it's costly to manufacture this card. It's like our currency. You know, if you want to have a banknote, it is very expensive because you need to build a lot of security feature on it in order to make sure that this cannot be easily faked. So I'm not going to focus on the ID authenticity check, but how biometric comes in, where biometric comes in is here. We do live detection. Biometric would do live detection to ensure that this is a live person in front of the transaction, and then it would do the ID photo matching automatically, which is very important because this is where the human interaction is, right? This is what it is. And it can be done this way so that you can automate the process. So it is very intuitive because it is the same way as you would do it in front of an agent. You scan the ID card, and you just say, well, this is me. You capture one or two selfies. It's very intuitive, nothing more than that. An old man can do it, and a young kid can do it. So it does not require any training or whatever, or intrusive instruction. Well, please touch your nose and put your left hand. Oh, this is my left hand. Okay. No, it's very, very important. Okay. So with the state-of-the-art live detection, you do not need video session, no video conference call. You can do it with one or two selfies and smartphone and any phone. And the biometric power comes in here is high assurance, fraud detection, user presence detection, as well as compliance, GDPR, all those things can help. And automated, it means 24/7 is possible now, and cost effective because you do not need to hire 300 people looking after your KYC department. And it's efficient because it can be done in seconds. And user experience, of course, is self-serve. I like to do it midnight, wearing my pajama, doesn't matter, right? And it's anytime and anywhere. So before I close up, I just want to urge you to empower your customers. with biometric with live detection. For one reason, very simple reason, because there's nothing to remember, there's nothing to forget. And why so? Because you can do it with user consent. Non-repudiation is important. User presence, you know the user is always there to do it. You can prevent unauthorized access. And lastly, user is in control. That means you reduce a lot of account fraud. A lot of fraud, account recovery, I lost my password, I forget my password. This is where the loophole is. This is how the attackers comes in to steal all the credentials. Okay, now you can reduce that because you put user in control. Nobody else except me who has the control of my account. So with that said, you can pretty much use the technology biometric with live detection throughout your identity lifecycle. Be onboarding, transaction, user support, offboarding, and re-engage the customer again. With that said, that's the end of my presentation. I hope it makes sense to you guys. Thank you. Yeah. Yep.
Would you like me to read them for you? Or I like the second one. Will biometric measures change with plastic surgeries or other facial?
Yes, of course.
I mean, I'm interested. So.
Yes. Yes. With biometric change over, biometric is how you look, how you are. Okay. If you change your look, you want your face to be changed, right? Of course, you want to be recognized as with a different look, right? So yes, biometric would change.
But how much? I mean, like there are some nose job. What else do people do with their faces other than Botox? I mean.
It's a very fair question because when you want to do a plastic surgery, usually you want to make a change, a difference, right? So it is a difference. So for the sake of your security of your data, you better go back to your bank again and say, well, now I'm a new me. It's a new Ho Chang. I look this way. So you have to do it that way. So for those people who are thinking about using plastic biometrics to do it that way, then of course, this is a biometric will not be able to tell, but except the new you must be re-enrolled again.
Another question, do biometrics change over time?
Of course, we grow old every day, right? So we look different, and yes, biometric, we're talking about two types of biometric. One type is static, for example, your fingerprint and your iris, those usually don't change so much, but your face change over time. So biometric must be able to adapt to the change. If you have a kid which is, if you have kids at 5 years old, and if I see your kid again 10 years after, I might not be able to recognize the user because the kid changed, right? But you would change. You would not be able to mix up because you see the change over time. So yes.
Can we take more questions? Yeah. Shall we go with the first one? There are weaknesses in using biometric for authentication. In your opinion, what other elements should be used in addition to biometric technology?
Yes, very good question. I think nowadays we talk about multi-factor because you alone, if I walk on the street, you say, well, that looks like Ho Chang. But until you go up to me and ask what's your name as Ho Chang, and then I need multi-factor. And I think in the financial world, I don't think single factor will work. So you need multi-factor to ensure or to overcome the weakness of the other factors, always.
One more?
Yep.
The fingerprinting process was created to identify two inmates, yep. I think.
Whoops.
How will biometrics be able to tell the difference between two people who look similar, like twins?
Oh, of course, if you talk about facial recognition, yes, of course, they will look very similar. So it is a kind of trade-off you have to have for your customers because if you want to say, well, I want to make sure this is the twin A, this is versus twin B, you have to deploy additional measure, maybe with voice, with iris, or with fingerprint to compensate the similarity between the twins.
Taking selfies and a picture of your ID can be easily captured. Isn't it risky?
Of course, it's risky. This is why live detection is important, right?
Okay, so most of the biometric systems today are using fingerprints. When would other biometric features like iris scan, face recognition, skin smell be used?
Well, I would not think about skin smell and those kind of things, but the iris scan...
Iris has been used, yeah? Iris scan is used now already.
Yes, iris scan is widely used. The only concern about iris scan is also the confusion between iris scan and retina scan. Retina scan is, they use the infrared camera, near-infrared camera to scan your blood vessel of your eyes and then to recognize who you are. Of course, it's unique. But people are concerned, oh, I don't want anything shining on my eyes, right? So it is kind of a mix-up, and that's why iris scan has been sort of I'm reserved on that one. And the fingerprint, of course, is widely used, but if you look at Apple's iPhone evolution, they started with PIN code and then to iTouch, right? And then to Face ID, right? So this is the evolution. So anything that requires a special sensor, it's going to go away. We do not need special hardware because we like to be free to choose our device, right? So facial recognition using a camera is probably the best way to go versus a sensor-based technology like fingerprint.
Thank you very much. We don't have any more time to take more questions,
Okay.
but
thank you.
Thank you.